or Vassie. Good afternoon, Vassie.
Hello.
Yeah, Vassie, how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you. How are you?
That's good. I'm very good. You're happy to talk on the extent of the RMCC briefly.
Yeah,
So
I'm
when we
happy
get
to.
to this bit, this is the sort of the information that you've
Yeah.
provided. If you wouldn't mind doing a bit of a spiel on it from transport's perspective at this point, that would be greatly appreciated. Doesn't have to be particularly long, just a bit of
No, no problem.
information on what you think about it and how important it is and how much we spend, etc.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
All right, we might get started.
Yep.
Well, good. All right. Well, thanks all. Thank you for coming along to our February webinar for the RTD. As you can see on the screen, the topic for this discussion today is around asset AI, in particular focusing on the work the team has been doing to integrate the platform from an RMCC perspective. So this is certainly something that was identified by the users of the platform as a high priority item, and we've been doing a fair bit of work behind the scenes to make it a lot easier for people who are working under the RMCC to use the platform. I will pass over to Nathan Skelly, who is going to take you through the bulk of the presentation. We have a Q&A and a chat function for this webinar. So if you've got any questions or comments as we go through, please do post them in there, and then we'll have a dedicated Q&A session towards the end of the webinar today. But without further ado, I'll pass over to Nathan.
Thank you very much, Josh. So Nathan Skelly, I've worked in local government for 20 years prior to moving across to my own consulting firm. I'm now working on Asset AI as the product owner. I was involved in Asset AI near from the inception in my role at council, and I helped set out what councils may want to see from this product with my roles at Liverpool Plains. And now I'm on the other side helping with the development of the platform and trying to direct it in a way that councils will see value from it. So as Josh touched on, today my plan is to give you an overview of the Asset AI platform. So it'll be a pretty quick touch on how the platform works as a whole. We're going to talk about what RMCC is like across the state of New South Wales and how much we spend, how many roads councils look after on behalf of Transport for New South Wales, how Asset AI can work with you on your RMCC inspections to reduce inspection times, improve data outcomes, and hopefully save you some money. Some of the benefits that you can see from Asset AI, particularly with the inspections, and the Q&A session at the end of it. So Asset AI has been going on for about 3 years now. It started in 2021 with an idea from one of our councils, being Canterbury Bankstown Council. They posed the question, what if we could inspect our roads with garbage trucks, essentially? And from there, we stemmed into looking at using camera detection with AI to identify what the defects are to make it an automated process. So for Canterbury Bankstown, they are now running cameras on their street sweepers, and they are inspecting their entire road network every 2 weeks at a much reduced cost of doing it in a manual process. Transport for New South Wales have come on to fund this project, and they have invested a substantial sum of money into the development of this, and the development of it is ongoing. And IPWA's role and my role is as the product owner. So what that means is I'm here to guide the direction of the software platform to ensure that it gives value to councils over the long term. We currently have 14 councils on board with us. I won't read through the list of them, but we've got a mix of urban and rural councils. A number of these councils weren't inspecting roads before they used Asset AI, and they've used Asset AI as a jumping off point to undertake routine inspections of their road network. And again, it is greatly more efficient than traditional methods. Up to now, the development's been undertaken in partnership with Deloitte. They've done an awful lot of work in developing this platform and making it what it is today. We work with 3 data providers for the camera side of things, which is Retina Vision, Bisala, and Shepherd. They are the 3 suppliers that we can ingest data from and bring into the platform. Compass IoT provide network level data from connected vehicles. So vehicles post about 2015 have a myriad of sensors in them and communication capabilities, and we can ingest data from vehicles that are given permission, from vehicle owners that have given permission for that. It's not your vehicle in the driveway that's doing it. It's more fleet vehicles like hire cars, Transport for New South Wales fleets, things like that, where they're offering up the data for benefits from insurance and fleet management processes. We are working with a couple of new potential data providers into the future to build on that camera detection. We want to expand it to make it as open as we can so councils have as many options as they can to get the best value for their inspections. Very simple way of how this works. Data collection is undertaken with the cameras. We ingest from the 3 different providers. You can either do it as an active inspection. We have some of our regional councils install the camera on a dedicated inspection vehicle and drive their network every 3 months to pick up the data. Others, like Canterbury Bankstown, have it on their street sweepers that are all on the network. And Griffith Council, for example, have a hybrid where they have a camera on their street sweeper and then a camera on their inspection vehicle to try and cover the whole network. The data that comes in is clean on our end. We take in the inspection data from those 3 camera providers at the moment. We map it across to the IPWA's inspection methodology, which is heavily based on the M3 inspection framework. And we assign codes. We make sure that the severities are consistent between the 3 camera providers, and we give you a 1 to 5 severity rating on our side of the program. We also deduplicate defects. So this is a very important part of how the detections work. So if you can imagine you're driving a car with the camera facing out the front, it will detect an image in front of the car, but the GPS position is where the car actually is. And if you're driving from the opposite direction, it may pick up the same defect about 10 meters away on the other side of the road. So we do some GIS analysis to make sure that when we pick up images of defects, if they're in the same sort of location, we analyze it to make an educated guess, an educated analysis that it would be the same defect regardless of which direction you're traveling from. We also bring in the data from Compass IoT to help build out some more information on your road network, and we can use that into further analysis. We track the number of detections. So for Canterbury Bankstown, inspecting every 2 weeks, we don't enter a new defect for every time they drive over a pothole. It just tracks up that we've inspected that defect again and increases the counter on how many times that defect has been detected. We then use that data to undertake some additional analysis within the platform, and it's focused on the Esri platform. It allows you to filter down to the data very effectively on that platform. And then we can use that for further analysis to sort of give you some additional insight. So I apologize, these maps are probably a bit small, but what they sort of show is on the left, we've got a roughness map. That's from the Compass IoT data. So that's pulling accelerometer data from the connected vehicles, and that map is focused on Broken Hill. So you can see even out that far west in New South Wales, there is still enough data from those connected vehicles to create a roughness prediction in that area. It won't cover your entire network. There's a minimum number of vehicle passes that need to be undertaken to get that, but it does cover it would cover your major roads. That data we've measured it against a known roughness rate, so an IRI in a particular location was kind of calibrated to that point, but it's not a calibrated IRI, it is a proxy for roughness. On the right-hand side there, we've got an image that shows a predictive estimate of where potholes may occur on your network. So the AI part of Asset AI is looking at the defect data that's collected and a large number of data sources that are publicly available. So some of them are soil classifications, distance from trees, distance from water courses, zoning information, road hierarchy. There's a huge suite of data that we've looked through to draw correlations between those data sets and the likelihood of potholes, cracking or rutting occurring. So this one is from Mid Coast Council, it's Foster Tuncurry area. Where it's red is showing segments that have a high likelihood of developing potholes. Now, if you're doing a reseal planning piece of work, for example, you could look at that list, identify where you have potholes, which may indicate you've got surface issues with your seal that need to be renewed. And you can use that as a bit of a ready reckoner at the start of your process to identify segments that you might need to inspect more closely to plan your reseal there. And similarly with cracking and rutting, you can look at the same thing for potentially your heavy patching or renewal side of things. So as councils here would know, RMCC is a very large piece of work across the whole state, and for some councils it is a key part of their delivery and a key part of ensuring that their teams have work available for it. So I'll hand over to Vasi, who works for RMCC in transport, to give us a bit of a rundown on it from a transport perspective.
Thank you, Nathan. Hi, everyone. By looking at some of the names, I may have met some of you. For those who I haven't met, Ganesh and Vastiharan, or known as Vasi within transport. I'm the RMCC Delivery and Performance Manager. So I know it's a bit of a mouthful with the title. RMCC obviously stands for Road Maintenance Council Contracts. So the transport has got Road Maintenance Council contracts to maintain the state roads in the regional area. So we approximately about 50% of the regional state road network is managed by the council partners under this contract arrangement, which is the RMCC. So 50% is roughly about the 8,800 lane kilometers maintained by our council partners, and the average annual expenditure is about 300 million. We have had, couple of years about 300 and a bit lower than 200-300 few years. So on an average is 300. So as part of the contract or routine services work, the contract has got two main components: the ordered work component and a routine services component. That is where the inspection of roads and picking up the defects and recording them and fixing them appropriately and timely and all that is part of that routine services part of it. So when this project was partnered by Transport, IPVIA, and a couple of other councils, I think Canterbury, Bankstown, and Griffith, as Nathan mentioned earlier, a few years ago, we have been, monitoring it sort of with a lot of interest. So we could see that there could be benefit in other parts of transport business as well, not only just in the local roads area. So recently, we have partnered with IPVIA now with trialing this one for the RMCC state roads as well. So our approach is that while we see a lot of benefits and potential cost saving in the long run, we want to make sure that it is done in an appropriate manner, going through the process, like collecting data, making sure it is can be compared with the manual inspection data, and going through an approval process, and then we say that we have got sufficient data to confidently say that has been demonstrated that it is covering all that. So it's just want to make sure that because we have got a specification, as we all know, the M3 which has got some requirements, and then we want to make sure that this is defendable if it is challenged in a court of law somewhere. Hopefully we don't need to do too many of them, but as you all know, that can happen. So we want to just do it in an appropriate way. So that is why we currently we are part of the transport is funding it, and as Nathan said, and is a partner to this initiative. If we are managing it, we are also part of transport. So obviously the interest is there. We want to support this. We want to see the success of this, but we want to make sure that it is done in an appropriate manner. So I will be involved in this process in this current role. Obviously, when we have sufficient data, then we'll go through the process of making sure that this is this has realized the benefit that we were intending, and then we can then make it a long-term, ongoing way of doing inspections and all that.
Thank you, Basti.
Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you very much. So from that data, I love a good image that sort of brings this out to reality. So of those 8,800 lane kilometres of council is looking after it, we have 63 councils looking after it across the state. If you take the lowest inspection regime, or the more ordinary one is about every 2 weeks, that means you've got to do 880 kilometres of inspection across the state every single day. Now that takes you from Transport for New South Wales in Parramatta, where Bassi is located at, out to Wilkenya. That's an awful lot of driving every single day that we're doing to undertake the inspections. Now, Asset AI doesn't necessarily remove that. It can in some instances where you have vehicles already traversing the network doing other tasks, and they can inspect as you go on. It can reduce that bit, can improve the carbon footprint there, but that's the scale of the inspection challenge across the state road network every single day. We need to get 880 kilometres inspected every single day. So I had experience in this in my time at Blaney Shire Council. I was managing the RMCC. I did some of the inspections. We had about an 18-kilometre network, and it took us about an hour to inspect that 18-kilometre network. Now, we had to double back and drive the entire network twice, just the nature of how it was shaped. So, it took us about an hour to do 36 kilometres of driving and inspection. So my experience at Blaney is actually a lower efficiency rate than I've identified here, but the current inspection methods, as councils would well know, you've essentially got two real ways you can do it. You can have a single inspector drive out, pull over at each location to capture the defect manually using reflect or whatever methodology you use, or you could also have a driver and inspector in the car where two people drive along. You can potentially drive a bit faster, and the inspector would pick up the defects as you're driving through. Now, if you have a lot of defects, you may still have to stop and give them time to enter them in as you're going through. Now, to do that 880 kilometres, you're looking at nominally 10 or 11 hours at 80k an hour, or about 13 hours at 60 kilometres an hour. Now, I appreciate this doesn't represent any individual council. This is just the effort that is needed across the state every single working day. So you look across a fortnight period, you're looking at something like 200 odd hours of manpower is needed every single fortnight to undertake the inspections of the entire state road network. As Vassi touched on, we've done a lot of work with Asset AI to try and make it a suitable tool for this task. It does not replace the entirety of your inspection regime under M3. We pick up a lot of defects, but they are related mainly to the road and pavement and a little bit to the edges where you can pick up vegetation for landscaping, tree branches, a bit of information on surface drains, signs, guideposts. It doesn't and cannot inspect culverts. It's a little bit loose on some of the drains sometimes because it's It's only what you can see from the vehicle. So it doesn't completely replace your inspection methodology for Transport for New South Wales, but it can make the vast majority of your inspections a much faster process just by driving through at the prevailing traffic speed with a camera to do it. One of the beautiful benefits of it is you don't need a dedicated inspector to do this. The AI component of this picks up those defects by itself. You don't need to send out a trained team member. It could be someone you might have on light duties that can drive a vehicle. It could be some admin helping the team. It could be anyone that can drive a vehicle. They don't need to interact with the camera to pick up the defects. There's no buttons to press. There's no commentary to make. There's nothing that they have to do. They just have to drive the network with the camera on, and it will pick up the defects and send it back through the whole processing pipeline. We've integrated into Reflect for this as well. So with the councils that we've worked on, such as Warren, Griffith, Liverpool Plains, Mid Coast, and Port Stephens Council, we've integrated into their Reflect database to send across the defects that we pick up. We map it across to the same format that is within Reflect. We send images across. We store multiple images within Reflect so you can see a history of the defect if it has been detected multiple times. And they are specifically identified that they are loaded from Asset AI and they're an Asset AI detected defect. So there's no mistaking the fact that you might have defects identified by your current inspectors. It will be very clear which ones are identified by your current inspectors and which ones are identified by Asset AI. Again, we map to the segments. We have GPS coordinates. We map to the segments the same way that Reflect does. If it identifies it within the zone that's within Reflect for that segment, it will identify it against that segment, and it will also identify it against the chainage points that you have set up within that Reflect segment. So there's no loss of location fidelity or anything like that doing it through Asset AI versus traditional methods. And again, you get a very clear photo with a red box around what the defect is that has actually been detected. So how the workflow works is you can complete your inspections faster. You have a camera on your vehicle and you drive the network as you would normally, but there's no interaction that's needed. You can drive it at the prevailing speed limit. You don't need to stop. So you don't have to pull off to the edge of the road, pull back into traffic or anything along those lines. It does make it safer. You can focus solely on the task of driving on your network rather than having to split your attention between driving and defect capture. The defect detection, because we go through an AI process, it is very standardized. You will get the same result every single time. You won't get differences from your different inspectors. That gives you some benefit in the defect history where you can see how many defects you've picked up, how often you've gone over the defect, how the severity has shifted over time. It becomes very clear in this platform how it all works. When it comes time to close it, you close it as you would normally in Reflect at this stage. Nothing changes there, with maybe one little wrinkle, which I'll talk about at the moment. Nothing really changes there. You accomplish it, and then that data is sent back to the Asset AI platform and closes the defect off in Asset AI as well. One of the key things is for this integration, the odd reality is you don't need to log into the Asset AI platform. This can work without any interaction of the Asset AI platform. So you don't have to learn a new tool or process to implement this into your council for RMCC with Reflect. If you already use Reflect for your RMCC, you can purchase a camera, sign up to the Asset AI platform, and the only bit that changes is the inspector doesn't need to enter the data into Reflect manually. There might be some work they have to do to prioritize and triage those defects because it will pick up an awful lot more defects than what you're currently picking up. So there is a bit of work around that side of it. And part of that can be just easy filtering. When we set up the integration, we can set it up so that we don't send all the defects across. We send higher severity defects instead of sending all of them 1 through 5. We can send across defects that are severity 3 and above, which are closely aligned with your intervention standards under M3. I mentioned there's a few little wrinkles. It does not completely replicate the legacy workflow. My experience with Reflect in the past, we had an inspection calendar set up. When you went in an inspection, you started that inspection from that calendar. Every defect you picked up was linked to that specific inspection number. We can't do that with Asset AI. The date's linked, the time's linked. You can pull together a timestamp of when every defect was picked up, but it's not linked to a specific camera. And part of it's calendar, apologies. And a big part of that is if you're inspecting with a garbage truck or a street sweeper, it will likely pick up defects more frequently than your inspection regime may require. So we just push the data across without looking at the inspection calendar. The workflow does comply with M3 spec. The M3 specification is pretty silent on how you undertake your inspections. It just says you've got to do inspections, you've got to pick up the defects. This complies with that requirement. Obviously, one of the challenges being without that calendar, you've got to think about how you're going to prove that you're inspecting on the cycle that you're required to do. But again, that can be pulled out from the inspection dates with the cameras. With some of the implementation into the system, we cannot measure quantities at this stage. We don't have the capacity to estimate quantities of the defects that are raised. So what that means is on the defects detected, the quantity is left as null. It's just no value at all. There are exceptions such as potholes, signs, guideposts, graffiti and roadkill that's hard-coded as one defect. Now, that covers probably 98, 99% of cases. There will be situations where you may pick up more than one pothole on any given defect inspection. It will still come through as one. But when it comes time to accomplish it, the operators in the field can adjust that quantity as they do at the moment. They can do that without any challenges at this stage. So it does replicate a lot of what you want to do, but it's not a complete one-for-one replication of that current process. So benefits of Asset AI, this is something that I've been focusing on an awful lot for the last number of months on how to measure the quantifiable benefits of Asset AI. We've done work previously on the qualitative benefits around how councils were using it to improve their asset management planning and improve their prioritization of works. What I've been working on a lot is looking at how many dollars you can actually save. So if we look at the Asset AI inspection method specifically at RMCC network, it's a single driver, you don't need to pull over. If you can put it on a garbage truck or a street sweeper or a vehicle that's already on the network, you can continue on, which means you may not actually need a dedicated person for a lot of your routine inspections. If you've got vehicles driving the state network at a frequency that meets the requirements, you could put the camera on that vehicle and the bulk of your inspection data would be collected automatically without any further intervention from someone having to specifically put time aside to go and do the inspection. As you can drive at the prevailing speed limit, you can save time. You don't need to pull over, you don't need to focus, and there is a time saving available for it. What we've seen with our users is we're seeing at least a 58% reduction in cost in inspections between legacy inspection methods and using Asset AI inspection methods. So we've worked with a bunch of our users on the benefits report. We have asked them how much they were spending on road inspections prior to Asset AI, how much they were spending on asset inspections post Asset AI, and we've looked at the average difference between them. So as a range, legacy inspection costs were somewhere between $300 and $500 per kilometre of road network. With Asset AI, our inspection costs are between like $12 per kilometre up to about $170 per kilometre when you're looking at the difference between having the camera on a vehicle that's already on the network versus having a camera that is used in a bespoke inspection vehicle at the time. So there is quite a substantial cost saving when you look at it purely on these costs. And then if you look at on how much it costs to pick up a defect, the savings become even more stark, with the cost of picking up an individual defect in the order of $50 per defect using traditional methods, and it can get down to as low as $1, $2 per defect using the Asset AI methodology. One of our councils has seen benefits with their inspectors being able to do more work outside of inspections. So they have been able to ramp up their inspections on other asset classes, and also they now have the capacity to undertake signposting and warning of higher severity defects on their network. They have reduced their road inspection time by about 50%, and that has enabled their staff to do more work and better work on other road inspections. As I stated before, many of our rural councils have started inspection regimes because of this, because the cost has become a lower barrier of entry. So one of them went from no inspections to inspecting their entire sealed road network every 3 months, and that's costing them about $100,000 a year now, whereas before they couldn't afford it, they couldn't do it, they didn't have the resources to be able to do those inspections. Whereas now, as I understand, they send out one of their admin staff in a vehicle once every 3 months to pick up their network. So they've got their technical staff being available to look at the data, analyze it, identify where they want to spend their money, and the data collection is coming in at a very cheap rate comparatively. I mentioned the case studies. If you're an RTD member, these are available for free on our website. So the previous one we did, data-driven road maintenance, that's looking at the qualitative benefits of this platform. So how councils, including one of the case studies is from myself when I was on the council side of things, how we use the data to plan our reseals was one of our examples. I had a new manager of operations. He didn't have a whole lot of knowledge of the network. There wasn't a whole lot of asset data within the organisation as well. We were able to use the inspection data from Asset AI to very quickly pull together a reseal program based on where we're seeing flushing, bleeding, stripping, and potholes across our network. So it really helped us build that corporate knowledge very quickly, very easily, and implemented that to do our reseals. Other councils have used it for heavy patching. You can easily identify where you have rutting and shoving across the entirety of your road network and how it is progressing. The benefits report that I mentioned is going to be released at the state conference on the 22nd and 23rd of April. It's looking at the dollar side of things and how much councils can potentially save or gain in efficiency is probably the better way to put it with using Asset AI, because we recognise from all the modelling that IPWA has done, there isn't enough money for roads across the whole network anyway. So any tool that we can have that improves the efficiency of councils can help reduce that backlog. The benefits we're looking at is direct inspection costs, which I touched on here briefly. Those numbers came from this report. We've also looked at the potential benefits from going to a more proactive maintenance regime, a more proactive response regime, which one of our councils has seen massive gains from doing it that way. So you've got two benefits that you can get pretty simply through using Asset AI, the massive gain in inspection efficiency, but also better planning of your maintenance works and your renewal works into the future. So we're right at the very end of phase 4. Phase 5 actually commenced essentially this week. So within phase 5, we're looking at bringing on additional data providers that can, one of them sells cameras to garbage trucks at the moment. So that will be a very, very high level automation collection of data for those councils that use contractors that use a system. And we're also looking at 2 other camera providers that are currently within the market that have done different work as well. So we're working with them. How that implementation works from our side is we analyze their data. I have to sit down and look through a myriad of defect images to make sure that we can align it to the same standard of the same severity that we pick up at the moment. So I will be analysing all that, make sure that it aligns with what we want to see from it, so that if you were to change camera providers on the SAO platform, you will get the same results at the end of it coming from whichever camera provider you use. With the data collection we've got over the last 2 years, 2024, 2025, there's been some 800,000 defects detected across our 14 partner councils in the Transport for New South Wales network. That's an inordinate amount of data that we can use to analyse to develop other insights from the road network. So we're looking to work using that data and the connected vehicle data to try and build up something of a road safety dashboard. So this will be more of a predictive, proactive look at road safety rather than the common black spot stuff, which was looking back at the history. It's going to consider sharp braking events. It's going to consider sharp steering events that come from the vehicles alongside potentially defects that are known to give rise to a crash risk in particular locations. So as an example, flush seal reduces the friction. If it's on a curve, that's known to give rise to a crash risk. So we can start to identify and bubble up to the surface insights into where you might have issues, road safety issues on your network. We'll also look at that data, see what other insights we can bring forward for it. So one of the pieces of feedback we have had is the platform does collect a lot of data. It has a lot of tools to filter the data out, but we can do better, and we will do better on having options there that just pop it straight up in front of you at the start, like a filter button or something where you can just say, I want to look at where I should reseal or where I might look to reseal, and create a filter that excludes where there's pavement defects, includes where you've got potholes, stripping, flushing, etc., and give you the thing saying these segments of your network may be good for reseals. We are looking to onboard in another 5 councils over the next 6 months, so build from our 14 up to about 19 over the next 6 months. We do have capacity for more, so don't feel like it's first in, first served, but we do have limited capacity with it because it does take a bit of development effort to spin up new councils. So if you are interested, please get in touch. We can talk through it. The future phase, starting from June towards the end of the year, we're going to look a bit more deeply into further machine learning and a bit more on predictive maintenance and renewals. Feedback from the councils on board is they want us to laser focus on maintenance, planning and scheduling. So we will work towards that within this phase, as well as try to identify what insights we can pull from the data set and improve the usability of the platform. Into the future, we continue looking at different AI tools that we can use for it. We'll look at further works planning, how we can improve it. We might look further deeper into asset management planning on it as well. But this is where we meet with the councils on board every month, every month. And that's where you can help guide that process as well when you're on board. And again, we want to continue onboarding councils across it because we do believe this is a good program that can save you money and improve the knowledge of your road network. If you want to get involved, you can contact us for a demonstration of it. It takes us about an hour to run through it with your council. We do it via Teams. If you want, the QR code there should take you to a link where you can book an appointment with either Will or myself. Generally, we will both try to present. It should show our availability. My availability over the next 2 weeks is a bit limited as a result of the development work that we're doing with the changeover of developer, but you can scan that, you'll get a handle on when we've got availability, and certainly Will is more than capable of running you through that process. We tag team this a lot. If you want to get involved, what's involved is signing a tripartite MOU between the council, IPWA and Transport for New South Wales. It sets out obligations of each party. It's nothing, as it's an MOU, it's not necessarily legally binding, but it's a pretty straightforward document. We're currently reviewing it following feedback from various councils, and we will talk about what sort of access and security we run through. Beyond that, wraps up my presentation. I notice we've got at least one question in the chat, so we can open up to questions and answers.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, please do, if you have any questions, pop them either in the chat or the Q&A. There is, what do we got here? One question from Vahid. Do you have any collaborations with the universities for development of asset AI? I can probably partially answer that one. We have certainly had interest from a number of universities over the last couple of years. We're not directly working with any, but there's certainly a couple that we're having open conversations with, and one even reasonably recently, wasn't there, Nathan, from a university in New Zealand. So yeah, we're trying to leverage the research that's been done in this space and try to build that into the platform where we can.
I can see Mark's asked about inspection for road signs, requires drive in both directions still. Yes, that would be correct. It does pick up your faded signs. It does pick up bent signs. So obviously to pick up a faded sign, you've got to be driving the direction that the sign is facing. Regarding night inspections, the cameras do work at night. However, it does not pick up the defect of low retro reflectivity of signs. So my recollection and my experience doing nighttime inspections, you're looking at a lot of how the warning signs and regulatory signs work on a retroreflective manner and the line marking. At this point in time, we don't ingest data that reflects on the retroreflectivity of the data. So it's probably not the optimal tool for a nighttime inspection if that's what you're looking at, but we do see images that it does pick up defects at night. Certainly Griffith and Canterbury Bankstown, their street sweepers run very early in the morning, and there's plenty of very dark images where it's picked up defects through those.
Right, I'm not seeing any further questions, so yeah, if you do have any, please do pop them in the chat. Oh, George, you've got one. George has asked, yeah, sorry, you can see that one, Nathan.
Yep. So George has asked, is there progress using two cameras? I'm going to presume you're referring to stereo cameras there, George. So one of our data providers is introducing what's known as a stereo camera. So it's a camera that's got two lenses, think like our eyes. The benefits of that is it allows you to do photogrammetry to identify dimensions, potentially depth, etc. with those cameras. So there is work going towards that. We have got our data pipeline set up to start ingesting that data. As I understand, Transport for New South Wales has just taken delivery of a couple of those cameras just this week. So we will start seeing that data come through, and we'll have to start really analysing it to understand what the benefits are for it and how we present it in our platform as well.
One more question. Tim has asked, is Asset AI open to looking to add a cost and quantity layer through intact coring or subsurface data? Nathan, happy for you to field that one. I mean, I'd comment that we've certainly looked at it. I think the challenge there is getting the breadth of data that you'd need to sort of make it viable across the state.
Yeah, that is the biggest challenge. So the data can provide some insights into an individual council, but it's not quite scalable across the balance of the state. So the analysis we're doing at the moment, we try to work on data sources that are transferable across the entirety of the state. So when another council comes on board, they get some of the benefit of the previous learnings of all the other councils as well. Mark's asked, potential for night inspections in urban areas detecting streetlights not working. At this point in time, I don't believe our data providers look at that as an option. So I don't think it's something that the data providers can provide through to us. So we have done some investigation with some post-processing around identifying leaning light poles and things like that as well as other data sources. But at this point in time, I'm not aware of any of the providers looking at whether streetlights are operable or not.
Okay. All right. I don't think there's any more questions coming in, so we might wrap it up there. Thank you very much, Nathan, for presenting on this topic today. As Nathan mentioned, if you are interested in hearing any more about Asset AI, please do reach out to us. We've got the generic email there on the screen. Trisha's posted the QR code to book an appointment, and then you can always reach out to any of the RTD team if you want to chat to us, and we can get you in touch with Nathan or Will. Just a quick note, the webinar for next month will be looking at the updated traffic control worksite standard that Transport for New South